Hello, I'm Jagan from Grow with Data. Welcome to the Crack SQL Interview in 50 question series. In this video series, you'll practice 50 SQL questions across various topics. You can use the playlist Crack SQL Interview in 50 questions to follow the videos related to this series. For each video in the series, you can find the related code on my GitHub. Feel free to explore the code and provide any feedbacks in the comment section. If you go to the YouTube channel Grow with Data, the playlist, you can see the Crack SQL Interview in 50 question playlist. If you go down, you can see all the videos related to that series. If you want to click on a video and if you want to see the description part of it, here we have the GitHub link. When you click on the link, it take you to the code where you have the create statement and the select statement used in this exercise. And there is a WhatsApp channel. If you want to join that WhatsApp channel, you can just click on it and you can join the Go with Data WhatsApp channel. Okay, now we are going to see the 17th video of the series. In this video, we are going to continue with the basic aggregation function. So we are going to dive into the SQL query challenge involving two tables. One is the project table and another one is the employee table. Our goal is to report the average experience year of all the employees for each project. We have to round the output to 2 decimal. So we have the project table. Let's create the tables first. Okay. So project table got project ID and the employee ID. So the combined column, the employee ID and the project ID is the unique identifier for this table. It connects with the employee table based on the employee ID. So the employee table has the employee ID, the employee name, and the experience in year. So the output has to be at the project level, what is the average age of the employee? Okay. So the project is in the project table and the year of experience is in the employee table. And we created the table. Now, once you get this table and asked to find the average year of experience, you'll be excited to say, okay, I have both the tables and project is the first table. So use project and say inner join the employee. How to connect this table based on the employee ID equal to p dot employee ID. And what they're asking for the project or project ID and average of year of experience. So what's the column name? Experience year. Average of average of experience year, right? As average experience. Since we use an aggregation function, we are going to say group by project ID are 1. And they say you round to 2 decimal. So round and 2. So if you run this, voila, we got the project ID and the average experience. So you will done with that SQL and say so simple, you answer the question and with satisfaction you see the interviewer, right? And the interviewer say, okay, the query looks fine, the output is good, but what if there is a project and the employee ID, but he don't have an entry in the employee table? He by mistake or by data corrupted, if there is a employee with a project assigned to it, but those records are not in the employee table. So how will you do that? Then you have to say, oh, okay. For example, you say insert into a record here. It says project where we have first is project ID, right? So project ID you can say 9 and the employee ID is 9. Okay. Now if you run it, you don't see any trace of this project ID or the employee ID. So if the interviewer come and say, what happens if you have an entry in the project table but not in the employee table? Then you'll say, oh, okay, then I'll just go for a left join, right? So when you go for a left join for the employee 9, you have the average experience. Then you will say, oh, okay, to get the null, you say coalesce function, you will address the null value, right? When you run it, you get this. So the point is, there's a small correction, right? So left join and coalesce, you know how to do it. But the problem here is, you said you're done with the SQL, then the interviewer pitch in and giving you a scenario, what happens if this is addressed, right? Then you have to go and change your SQL. So don't bring in that scenario. So once you get the question, you just understand and ask the clarification question. These are the basic things, right? So when you have two different tables, the basic thing is, okay, what if there is a entry in the project table, but there is no reference to the employee table? Then you can tell them, okay, I am going to use a left join to connect the project table with the employee table. That's one part of it. The second part is, in your mindset, you have the project table as the first one and the employee table as the second one, right? So when you create a table and a SQL, you just say project as the primary table and the employee as the secondary table. That won't be the scenario in all the cases. So if you see a practical scenario, you get an employee into a company and his information will be stored in the employee table. Then he will assign to a project, then his entry will go to the project table. So when you see the practical scenario, employee table is going to be the primary table and project is going to be the secondary table, right? So with your assumption, you see project as the first table, so you build the table. So if the interviewer comes and say, okay, if there is a new employee who joined and he hadn't been assigned to any project, then will your SQL work? So this is a very blunt question, right? So you completed a SQL, then you changed your SQL to a left join and add the coalesce function. Now the interviewer come and say, there's a new employee who don't have a project. Then what will you do? Then you have to go with the another scenario. For example, you just go with this. There is an employee 5 who got into the employee table, but he don't have any project. Then what will you do? Then what will you do? You have to get this table. You don't know whether to use a left join or a right join, right? So you can just say right join, and when you do this, you have the project as a null because that employee don't have a project and you can't populate like this. So you have to be stuck with that. So first thing is, you have to understand which is the primary table and which is the secondary table. Then you have to see whether the entry is present in the primary table, if not the secondary table, all that scenario, right? So the main criteria is which is the primary table. So in this scenario, we have employee table as the primary and project as the secondary, okay? Even then, if you see the employee is having an entry in the employee table, but don't have an entry in the project table. So how will you populate the project ID for those employees, right? So there will be a confusion. So when you run this, you can just go with the left join. So the project ID is null. So how will you address that? So whenever you have a project ID as null, you just go with some default -999 or 0. Okay. And then you go with the average of this. You can just say project ID. Right. So whoever the employees who don't have a project assigned, you will just have a negative number or a 0. 0 will be more odd because most of the project IDs won't be 0. Right. So you can now see who are all the employees who haven't assigned to a project yet, right? So the question is, find the employees who don't have a project yet. You can just say where the project ID is null. Then you get those employees. But the main scenario is, you have to know which one is the primary table, which one is the secondary table, and how will you address the employees who don't have a project. That will be the practical scenario. There won't be scenarios like where you got assigned to a project and you don't have reference to the employee table, right? That means the employee doesn't exist. So that scenarios don't happen. So this is the ideal situation where you have the employee as the primary and whether or not they are assigned to a project. If the question extends to see, find the employees who don't have a project assigned yet and what is their average experience. Then you say where p dot project id is null. So when you add this, then you can see the employees average experience who haven't assigned to a project, right? So the takeaway here is, first you understand, get the clarification, walk through your approach to the interviewer, then you start coding. Hope you like this video and thanks for watching.